When archaeologists started digging up old Viking settlements in Greenland and northern Iceland, they found something that just didn't make any sense. Homes that had stood for centuries through brutal Arctic winds, shifting ice, and endless hunger were still intact. Even stranger, these ancient homes had building features that no one could explain. When engineers tried to copy them in the 1900s for new Arctic towns, the results were baffling. The Viking homes stayed warmer, used less fuel, and somehow created their own stable indoor climate. The engineers completely failed to recreate it, and soon after, the design quietly disappeared from public records. What was this quiet trick the Vikings knew? And why was it ordered never to be taught again? This isn't just a story about architecture. It's a story about survival and forgotten environmental engineering. The Vikings didn't have electricity, insulation foam, or furnaces. But they had something we've almost lost today: an intimate understanding of how air, earth, and temperature work together. They didn't fight nature, they partnered with it. And that partnership allowed them to survive in places where even modern explorers struggled centuries later. The Arctic isn't just cold, it's alive with movement. Air currents shift daily. Snow compresses. The ground freezes and thaws. The Vikings realized that stiff, sealed homes would just crack under all that pressure. So instead of trying to block nature out, they made their homes breathe. Their secret wasn't insulation, it was circulation. The homes used what modern scientists now call passive thermal convection, a natural flow of air that balanced warmth, moisture, and pressure all at once. The walls of Viking longhouses were layered with turf, stone, and soil, but with intentional gaps. Warm air from the central fire would rise through the middle of the house, while cooler, fresh air was gently pulled in through the bottom turf layers. This constant cycle kept the humidity stable and stopped mold and rot from forming. Two of the biggest problems in northern construction. Even today, tiny channels between the stones acted like invisible vents. There were no drafts, no whistling winds, just a steady, silent flow of air. Tests on reconstructed Viking homes have shown they could stay around 18 degrees Celsius or 64 Fahrenheit, even when it was minus 25 Celsius or minus 13 Fahrenheit outside, using barely any firewood at all. When Scandinavian engineers in the 1930s rediscovered this system, they were absolutely shocked. The data was clear. Viking-style homes used up to 70% less fuel than modern wooden houses. They stayed warm, dry, and even acoustically quiet. That discovery spread quickly, and so did concern. Defense departments and civil engineers began studying these structures for potential use in Arctic bases and wartime bunkers. But when the results showed that ancient turf buildings could outperform modern, fuel-heated barracks, something strange happened. The research vanished behind classified walls. By the 1950s, parts of the Viking airflow design were marked for restricted civil defense use. Why? Because a home that didn't need heating fuel, repair services, or imported materials threatened entire industries: coal, oil, and modern construction. A society built on consumption can't really afford self-sufficiency. So the knowledge was labeled unreliable and primitive. Builders were told it couldn't be copied, even though it absolutely could. It just required patience, natural materials, and a mindset that didn't rely on machines. So, how exactly did it all fit together? Each Viking home started with a stone foundation that acted like a natural heat battery. absorbing warmth from the fire by day and releasing it slowly through the night above, that were layers of living turf blocks, cut with their roots intact and stacked in alternating directions. Every layer trapped air pockets, adding both flexibility and insulation. Between these turf layers, the Vikings would slip in dried seaweed and straw, creating microscopic tunnels for air. These formed a quiet, natural airflow network that carried moisture out and spread heat evenly through the walls. Then came the roof, low, heavy, and curved, built with bent wood or even whalebone and packed with moss. That heavy mass stabilized the indoor temperature and muffled any outside sound. The result? No drafts, no echo, just calm, balanced warmth. The brilliance of this design wasn't just about comfort, it was about efficiency. A Viking family could survive the entire Arctic winter using 1/3 the firewood of later settlers. At night, they could let the fire burn down to just glowing coals, and the home would stay warm all the way until morning. This was true sustainability before the word even existed. The design was self-regulating, self-heating, and self-repairing, powered only by earth, air, and time. If you wanted to use this Viking method today, you actually could. You could start by building partly into the ground. Even having 1/3 of the structure below the surface gives you amazing stability and heat retention. Use natural layered materials, packed soil, straw, sand, or modern eco-friendly substitutes. Create vents low and high to guide the airflow. Just like they did, don't seal everything up completely. Let the house breathe. And always remember, mass holds heat. Heavy roofs and dense walls mean slow temperature changes. That's the real secret. The Vikings didn't need blueprints or engineering degrees. Their technology came from generations of pure observation. They built by listening to the wind, to the ground, to the rhythm of the land itself. And that powerful instinct built something so incredibly efficient that modern engineers tried to suppress it instead of learning from it. Maybe that's the real story here. Not just that this knowledge was hidden, but that we stopped believing that old wisdom could ever outsmart our modern systems. In a time when energy prices keep rising and technology grows more and more complicated, this Viking secret feels almost revolutionary all over again. It reminds us that true innovation doesn't always come from computers or factories. Sometimes it comes from soil, from roots, and from the quiet wisdom of survival. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, subscribe for more lost technologies that simply work too well to be forgotten. Because the past isn't dead, it's just waiting for us to listen.